Right, do you know what, right? I think that brings us into our next section because Lee,
It does very well bring us into our next section.
we've started a new channel, obviously, between the five of us. Yeah, and I thought what we'd do from the very start, from the very first episode, is we'd ask ChatGPT to give us a bit more information because we all know each other and we all interact at the football, but do we really know each other? But you know who does know about you, and this is scary, ChatGPT knows all about you. And Lee, we're going to start with you, mate. Lee Judges. I've put your name into so I've just put into ChatGPT, who is Lee Judges. Now we've all got the list on the chat there, boys. I've put him in there. So it says here, and correct it if it's wrong, Lee, please.
There's a few mistakes here. I can tell you there's a few mistakes.
All right, let's go through it and we'll see what the mistakes are. So it says Lee Mark Judges, born 28th of August 1960. Said, fucking hell, you're old, Lee.
Are we good? Are we good so far, Lee? We good? That's correct.
No. 87.
87, yeah. He's an English YouTuber and former semi-professional footballer. Is that right, Lee? Semi-professional footballer.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Wasn't born in Waltham Abbey though. Like, you know what I mean? I was born in Wimbledon.
Where was you born there, mate? Where was you born?
South London.
Wimbledon.
South London. How fitting.
Exactly. I moved over when I found out this big club was coming over. Like, I've taken over.
So Lee, how long did you live in Wimbledon for? Because you could have been a Crazy Gang member, surely.
Well, I only lived in Wimbledon for 2 years. So,
what was your mum watching tennis at the time, or what was happening?
I was a tennis lover, but what happened was simply my dad had a relative that had a place, which is mad when you think about it. She had this place in Wimbledon, and they give it up to move to Waltham Cross Cheshunt because my mum had two. Like my brother was born, and my dad was working all the time, and my mum couldn't really needed a little bit of help. And my nan lived at Waltham Cross, so they made the decision to move. And if they didn't, I'd be a multi-millionaire now in that bloody house.
Yeah, I know all about that one, mate. So it says you're known for your passionate fan commentary on Arsenal via AFTV and his own Lee Judges channel. I think we can all agree with that, right? Passionate channel.
Definitely passionate.
Play fucking Lewis Skelly in the fucking midfield, Robbie. I've already fucking told you.
He's done it again, that Harry Kane.
Fucking done it again, yeah.
Good old Harry.
So it's going to give you a little bit of your football career and AFTV career. So it says here you played at semi-pro level club, including Aylesbury United, Hereford Town. Was that Hertford Town? Sorry, Hertford Town. Hertford Town, Waltham Abbey FC and Ware FC.
Yeah, never played at Aylesbury. I don't know where that's come from. Like, you know what I mean?
Don't know where that's come from. I never played at Aylesbury.
I was at Hendon, so you know what I mean. Just a couple of little mistakes, but I can take that. You know what I mean. So
it says it's come from Wikipedia. So yeah, obviously that's very. Maybe you can go in there. Maybe the viewers can go in there and start changing it. So where was it, Lee? You started at where?
I played at Hendon, which is right, Hertford, Waltham Abbey.
Was that the prison?
Ware and Cheshunt. Cheshunt's not in there, like, you know what I mean. So a little bit harsh, but on Cheshunt. But there you go, like, you know what I mean. So yeah.
Okay. Also managed St Margaret's-Bury during the 2010-2011 season. Is that right?
More than that. Had a couple of seasons there. Like took them over. Took St Margaret's-Bury over when they were bottom of the league, and I left when they was fourth. So I got Champions League football. Like there you go. Like, you know?
So what phase was that, Lee? What phase was that? That was phase 1. Phase 2.
I don't know. Phases weren't about when I was like, you know what I mean? So, only had two substitutes in my day.
When Lee was playing, they used to do their substitutions via smoke signal. Okay, so yeah, so
I can't wait your one to come out, Nicky. I really can't. When that
they don't know much about me, mate. I can do that. And as early 2025, continued to play for Waltham Abbey over 35 teams. Is that right, Lee? You still playing?
That is correct. Winning the treble last year. You know what I mean? So
now that is something with old, mate. Because I'll tell you what, I am 42, and if you asked me to run 10 yards now, mate, I could not do it. In fact, right, I got a little story about this. Me and Lee was meant to play in a charity game together. Do you remember this, Lee?
Yeah, yes.
The Cup.
Yeah.
So we come out for the warm up, right? Me and Lee would come up to the warm up. We was doing some warm ups by the goal. I took 2 shots and had to go in. That was me done. And that was in the warm up. You know what I mean? And then I watched Lee, a much more, if you don't mind me saying, Lee, a much more senior man than myself, absolutely bossed the fucking show. You know what I mean? Absolute. I can tell you that, mate. He's a baller. Could have probably paid for the arse back in the day.
What position? What position, Lee?
Midfield. I played when I was younger as a forward, as I think most people do. Do you know what I mean? But then I got moved back to midfield and like a box-to-box midfielder in my day. But the older I got, and certainly now, it's definitely a holding midfield player. Like, you know what I mean? So.
You're the cog, aren't you, Lee? You're just there. You don't have to do the running anymore. You let the ball do the work for you.
Always have done, like, you know what I mean? Like, a certain club taught me how to play football and they've done a good job on me, like, you know what I mean? So
brilliant. There we go. Still playing to this day. Right, so it says here, Lee, right, you burst into fame in 2016 with a fiery post-match rant on AFTV after Arsenal lost 2-1 to Swansea, launching his online presence. What the fuck did you say there to make yourself so famous?
You know what?
Still about 10 years later.
Do you know what? Like that was an unbelievable. That was an amazing fear. I didn't even know. I wasn't even on social media. You guys, you know, are doing all this stuff now. Like, didn't have a clue. And I just said something, and you know, funny enough, we played Spurs about 4 days later. You know, when Harry Kane scored 2 and Sanchez scored in the last minute. Coquelin got sent off. That was the game. But like, I just said something which like a lot of people agreed with and everything like that. And then the unbelievable thing is that the game, that Spurs Arsenal game, they was all on BT Sport or whatever it was then at the time, turning around and saying, "Oh, did you see this rant?" And I was going to the Spurs game, and my phone's going mad and all that, like, you know what I mean? People like Ian Wright, Piers Morgan, Harry Redknapp, Rio Ferdinand were all talking about it. And it just went from there, guys. Just went from there. And listen, very, very fortunate that it took...
Before that rant, Lee, well, obviously AFTV at that time, you know, probably had not, I don't know, amongst Arsenal fans, were known for like capitalising on losses. Like, were you a fan of that whole scene and everything before you did that?
Yeah, like, I you know, like God rest him, like Claude. I used to watch guys like Claude Mo and people like that, and yeah, I enjoyed watching it. You know what I mean? I remember like the famous one with Chris Hudson done after the Aston Villa game that I was. Non-league game that day. I didn't go to that Aston Villa game. Was invited to a non-league game, and someone showed me it, and I said, "Oh wow, it's you know, it's incredible and all that." Like, so from that point of view, it just sort of yeah, like, you know, I didn't realise at the time how big it was, and like you guys now all know about how big things are and everything like that. And it's a total myth, as you guys will know. This it's a total myth. That you do well on when you lose, you know what I mean? You do, of course, you do well, but like if you get knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, you know, you might get great views that day, but then you ain't got the other 4 or 5 games on top of that, like, you know what I mean? So
I would say this, Lee, from experience, you do well with any extreme. You're doing really badly, you'll do well. You're doing really well, you'll do well.
Yeah, like, you know, the biggest ever, well, like the biggest ever views, the biggest ever earner, as far as I know, from AFTV was when Arsenal beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. You know, when it was in lockdown. You know what I mean? That's the record. Like, you know what I mean? Like, love and behold, we won. You know what I mean? So. I get that, you know what I mean, like, and listen, I think if you watch Talk Sport, you might not like someone on there, you might watch AFTV, you might not like someone. Same with Tottenham and whatever. You're never always going to please everybody, and I think that that's one of those things. But yeah, like, you know, listen, from that rant, I've got a wonderful life now, apart from tonight. Like, it's ruined my life tonight, but other than that. It's been all right.
Let's move on. Lee. Fantastic story. Right, so media presences and personal life. Right, so it says host Lee Judges TV, creating Arsenal-focused YouTube videos and popular fan Lee Judges podcast with multiple series formats. We all know that. It says here outer ventures include owning a laundrette in Broxbourne, Hertfordshire.
Well, I said again, it was a dry cleaners. A laundrette is a little bit of a degrade, I think. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say that. I remember you telling me you owned a dry cleaners. I said I was gonna say, who the fuck you got cotton? But there we go. Yeah. So you owned a dry cleaners. So yeah, it wasn't a laundrette. Appearing on BBC Zen Motoring. Is that right?
Yeah, like it was a little series on BBC Three. I'd say like that was incredible. Quick little story about that. Like I got the BBC said, right, we're going to we want you to do this show, and I gets there. It was near Millwall's ground. It was. I had to go through the Rotherhithe Tunnel.
Oh, fuck.
So I actually went through the
Oh,
Rotherhithe
turn round.
Tunnel there and back, and I got a letter come through about 3 weeks later saying I've been fined 150 quid there and 150 quid back because I went through on my van. You know what I mean? So those are the days. You know what I mean? I didn't have my car, took my van, like, you know. But yeah, and I tell you what, guys, and this is when you're unbelievable sort of thing. Like I gets there, and it was just after all the lockdown stuff. You had to go and see the doctor, and then I had this woman come up, and she says, "Oh, she's going to be your chaperone for the day, like, you know, for the it was an evening shoot." So she just everything I wanted, she went and got. Can you believe that? Like that, it was a right unbelievable. Like, you know what I mean? I'll come and get your dinner, food, and all that. And I was in there, right, and there was like actors and all that, and they go, "Hey, what part are you playing then?" Like, you know, so I said, I'm playing a lawyer that's coming out. Well, what it was, you got into the back of a taxi and you drove, you know, like the taxi driver would, you know, so they had these people pretending they were lawyers, cut the girls from a night out. And they said, so what are you playing? So I said, I'm playing myself. So what it was, I gets into the cab and, you know, the geezer's a Spurs, pretends to be a Spurs fan or something like that, saying like, oh, Spurs are much bigger. So like, I end up throttling him, like, you know what I mean? And it was a good little show. So yeah, so I've done that. But to get involved and go around and find, you know, behind the scenes of what these, and I've been lucky enough to do that in adverts and things like that since, it's been incredible. Like, you know, to be able to see what the film star, I'm going to say film stars, you know what I mean, go about, like, you know. So great times. And that, all of that has come from that rant. If it weren't for that rant, all of this stuff, you know, it just wouldn't have happened, like, you know. So there you go.
Well, I think we lost Nicky.
He got bored, did he? Did he get bored?
That was actually like a really incredible story, to be honest.
The one last thing he wanted to cover, Lee, was about apparently you got two brothers, both Spurs fans.
He says he comes from a football family, a brother Darren, and many of his relatives support Tottenham, though Lee chose to back Arsenal under his father's influence. Is that true?
Like,
how does that happen, Lee, in your family? How does that happen?
You guys won't remember this because it's too early in your day. But like back in the day, like my granddad, my mum's side were all Spurs and season ticket holders, and you know, still are some of them. And my dad's side was Arsenal and that. But back in those days, your granddad, like my granddad, would take me to Spurs like on the Saturday, and then the following week Arsenal would be home. We'd go to Arsenal and that, like, you know. So me and my brother would go with my dad, you know, and I'd go to Spurs games. Players like, you know, I really like Martin Shivers back in the day, and players like that. And then one day I just, you know what I mean, I don't want to slag Spurs off when I say this. When I went to White Hart Lane, you had the pylon floodlights. It was a little bit dingy, a little bit dark at Tottenham. When you went to Arsenal, it just lit up, and it was just had this wonderful pitch as well. Mind you, Spurs pitch wasn't bad, I'm not going to say. And listen, back in the day there, both teams were very, very poor. They weren't, you know what I mean, like, you know, I think within a year or so, Spurs had got relegated. I thought I'd bring that up. But it weren't too much in it and all that, like, and yeah, I chose Arsenal. My brother went he stayed Spurs again. So yeah, he stayed Spurs, my brother. And listen, my brother lives abroad now, and for, like, luckily the last few Christmases he hasn't come over, but because he used to come over here, spend Christmas over here and bring his nephews with him. Like all my nephews are Spurs fans, like, you know, like, so Max is a bit older, so he's but he's Spurs as well. And they used to come round in, and my mum would buy them all the Spurs kits, you know what I mean? So for bloody Christmas, in my house, I have these kids running around with Spurs shirts on, like, you know what I mean? So
how close were you to being a Spurs fan, Lee?
Say again?
How close were you to being a Spurs fan?
50-50, I suppose, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? It could have, you know what I mean, could have gone either way back then. I didn't really, you know, I'm only young, you know, I'm not being horrible. Like, you know, I love my granddad, you know what I mean? And like spending my time with my granddad and my uncles from that thing, it was really, really good. And then the Arsenal doing that. But I think you get to a stage, didn't you? You know, don't know when. You like football? I like Man United back in the day, like with players like, because that was when I first getting into football. They would win the FA Cup. That was the only sort of thing you see, and you'd see Stuart Pearson, who I've been lucky enough to meet, like Gordon Hill, Steve Coppell, you know, like all those sort of players. And but then, you know, the Arsenal Spurs thing, and then it comes down. You've got to make a choice. I think that happens. Sometimes you don't know it. You just become inbred in it, and and then all of a sudden you start meeting Spurs fans and really like realising, you know what I mean, they're quite deluded, and start disliking them, like, you know what I mean. So
that's got the last bit of that.
But no, like the end of it, and that's why I've always been a little bit. Like, I know it sounds funny, like, you know, Spurs, you know, like, I'll be really honest. I sat here when they won that cup the other week, wherever it was. I sat in total darkness in my house till 2:30 in the morning. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
it was going to be bad. No, it was going to be bad. But
it's because you picked the dark side, Lee. That's why.
Yeah, well, then again, I was quite, you know, like for my nephews and my brother and all that, like,
defensively great, really good in the end.
Oh, it's the radio. Sorry. All right, I guess we'll should we move on? That was a bit about Lee, from what ChatGPT had to say about what Lee's life is like. What would you give out of 10 for accuracy, Lee?
Oh,
he's gone again.
7 out of 10. I think 7
out of 10.
Most of the things are there, right? Just a couple of names are different. That was all right. You know what I mean? So I think I've got to give it the laundrette things has hurt me. I'm going to say that's hurt me. Like, you know what I mean?
Of all things, what's it called? Your dry cleaners.
It was called Impressive Dry Cleaners. Very clever if you think about it. Like, you know,
impressive.
Yeah, so with the press bit, I actually made that myself. Very, very, very proud of that fact. You know what I mean? So listen, I'll tell you a quick little story if you want to hear this. I had a lot because of Broxbourne, a lot of Spurs players live around that area. Very, very friendly with Ray Clements before he passed away. And one day, Aussie R dealers come in with Ricky Villa, right? And I knew Aussie and his wife used to come in quite a bit, and they wanted his number 5 Spurs shirt washed because they had an event to go to. You know, the one that he scored the famous goal in.
Don't tell me don't tell me you fucked that up.
In 81. No, I would never do that. Like, you know what I mean? But what I'd done was I rung all my Spurs mates up and I said, if you get yourself down the shop, you can put his shirt on, have a photo of it and do whatever you want to do, like, you know what I mean? So all my Spurs mates were coming in through the door and trying on this. I'll tell you what, it wouldn't even fit me. Like, I couldn't get it on. And they was all having photos with it and whatever, like, you know. So there's a little story, like, you know what I mean? So
brilliant.
There you go.
Well, that is get to know your host. Lee Judges was first up this week, and we're going to do it for everyone.
Yeah, it's my first time meeting Lee today, so it's probably the best introduction. Now I know everything about you.
There you go.
There you go. Like, well, I look forward to listening to your one as well. Like, you know what I mean?
So, I'm worried what ChatGPT can say about me.
Can't afford his internet or something. You know what I mean? They've just got money for kudos. What's the matter with him? Like, you know what I mean?